Jesus is greater than all of the things that point to him. That should make sense, but to the Pharisees in the day of Jesus, they couldn't understand this. They claimed that Jesus did his mighty works by the power of Satan. And that's so sad because there he is, the Messiah, right in front of them, and they completely reject him. The first thing that they do is they accuse him of breaking the Sabbath. He and his disciples are walking through the fields of ripe grain, and the disciples are plucking the heads of the grain, and they're eating some of the raw grain. Well, they accuse him and his disciples of working on the Sabbath day. Jesus says, we're not working on the Sabbath day. And besides that, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. But he tells them, he's in verse 6 of Matthew chapter 12, but I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. The Lord Jesus Christ himself is greater than the temple. The temple actually represents Jesus and his ministry, but he says, I'm greater than the temple. He goes on and he heals a man with a withered hand, and they accuse him of doing his mighty works by the power of Satan. Well, he has to address that. And then finally the Pharisees, they say, oh, we want to see a sign from you. But he answered and said unto them, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh shall rise in judgment with this generation, and shall condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonas. And behold, a greater than Jonas is here. Now, what he's saying here is he says, look, he says, I'm telling you the truth about the Messiah. I'm telling you that I'm God come to earth in the flesh, and I have already showed you, just showed you a sign when I healed that man's hand. And you just keep asking for signs. He says that is an evil and adulterous generation that does that. And he says, there's not going to be any, I'm not going to perform on demand for you. I'm going to give you a sign that you can believe. And that's the resurrection from the dead. And he relates it to Jonah. And he said, just like Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so the Son of Man is going to be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. And then he's going to be resurrected. And he says, when Jonah preached, the men of Nineveh repented. But here the Lord Jesus is preaching, and they're not paying him any attention at all. He said, so they're gonna rise up in judgment of you because someone greater than Jonah is here. And how sad is that? So they are so concerned about the temple worship, but they miss the one who gave them the instructions on how to build the temple. They are so concerned about obeying the Sabbath laws and rules, and yet they can't hear the message that he's bringing to them. He goes on to say, the queen of the south shall rise up in judgment with this generation and shall condemn it. For she came from the uttermost parts of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Behold, a greater than Solomon is here. There's a greater temple, the body of the Lord Jesus Christ. He's going to resurrect his body on the third day. There is a greater prophet, the prophet Jonas, and the men of Nineveh. They repented when Jonas preached. But the people in Jesus' day, many of them are not repenting. And there's a greater wisdom, much greater than the wisdom of Solomon, the wisest king that ever lived. And yet, hear this, and also what's so amazing is Jesus uses 2 Gentiles to basically say they're going to rise up and they're going to condemn you. The men of Nineveh and the queen of Sheba, they're going to condemn you. Why? Because they recognized the truth when they saw it. They heard the preaching of Jonah, they repented. The queen of Sheba came and she recognized the wisdom of God and Solomon. But this generation cannot recognize. Jesus is greater than the temple. Jesus is greater than Jonah. And Jesus is greater than Solomon. He's greater. And I hope that you can not be like them. Don't let your religion get in the way of listening to the Lord Jesus Christ and of repenting and listening to his wisdom. God bless you. Have a great day.